Welcome back to 5-Minute Fantasy Football, presented to you by the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. Today we're going to talk about the 2024 Pittsburgh Steelers, go over their offseason moves, a lot of offseason moves starting with the coaching staff and the quarterbacks. And then, of course, talk about Mike Clay's projections and then sleeper value. How much does it cost to acquire these players? Let's start at the quarterback position. Russell Wilson's going off as QB 28, and he's going off as QB 28. Mike has him projected for 28. Justin Fields, he's got him as 32. Mike's got him at 35. The ADP's got him at 32. And again, the reason I would take Justin Fields a couple rounds later than Russell Wilson is just upside. You're not playing for second place. You want to win your leagues. And if Justin Fields were to play half the games and Russell Wilson were to play half the games, you would much rather Justin Fields. So don't even worry about Russell Wilson as your third quarterback in Superflex or whatever. He's just not going to do it. And he doesn't have a lot of pieces here. They're going to feature the running game. And in Justin Fields' case, you look at Mariota, you look at Taylor Heineke, you look at Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill was great. And that's the kind of rushing upside. He could be a league winner if you were to draft him with your last pick. And then he started the last half of the season for the Steelers. Jaylen Warren. We look at Jaylen Warren, 27, and Najee Harris, 28. The ADP has it the opposite. ADP has Harris going off as 22 and Warren at 26. So you can get Warren around cheaper. Mike Clay's got him going higher, 599 yards rushing. But the key is the passing game. 54 receptions, 370 yards. He's got 4 total TDs. Najee Harris, 892 and 6 on the ground, 28, 169, and 1 through the air. And you can see, and PPR, you'd rather have Warren. And let's look, how does that compare with what Sleeper has? 6.5 is the rushing line, the rushing TD line. Mike Clay's got him just lower than that. And then you look at the rushing, 825.5. He's got him. Mike Clay has it projected to go a little higher. You look what does Mike Clay have for Russell Wilson? 17.5 passing touchdowns. Russell Wilson at 15, actually 15. Sleep, where you have an underdog fantasy, is 17.5 is the line. So Mike's taking the lower. So again, go to underdog fantasy, use promo code FFSGPN if you want to play their season long. And then the receiving game. This is where it gets really interesting because Arthur Smith is going to target the tight ends. He's going to run a lot of 12 personnel with two tight ends, 2 receivers. And George Pickens is really the only guy on here worth drafting. They got him projected for 118 targets, 71 receptions, 1,091, 5 touchdowns, and 29, wide receiver 29. He's going off the board as wide receiver 28, pick 56. So Mike's right in step with that. And again, you look at this and go, okay, well, George Pickens is the only show in town. He should do a lot better. We'll see. It all depends on Russell Wilson. We had kind of a similar scenario with, Drake London. It didn't really work out the way we wanted it to over there in Atlanta. There's just not a lot of passing volume, and it was not a very fast-paced offense. So, there just wasn't a lot of opportunities. They have Van Jefferson down as the second highest as far as the targets, but Roman Wilson is right there with him. There is a swell of fans for Calvin Austin. He's a very shifty player, a little undersized, but a very dynamic player with the ball in his hands. And the hope is that he could turn into someone like a Deontay Johnson, but he's just not. He's going on year 3 or 4. I just don't know if it's going to happen. I'm most interested in Roman Wilson. And Roman Wilson right now is super cheap. You can get him as the 206th pick, wide receiver 80. I would much rather be interested in him than anybody else. He's been lights out, on fire during training camp. And Roman Wilson is a guy that, he's thrived in a running-based offense in Michigan. We didn't necessarily see the production, but we know why. I mean, they literally had Blake Corum had 27 rushing touchdowns in 12 games last year. Pat Freiermuth, this is a guy that I think is a sleeper right now. He's going off as tight end 15. Mike has him as tight end 14. I think he can finish much higher than that. The air yards is a key indicator. Targets is a key indicator. And so you have him with 82 targets, which would put him at number 2 on the team. And that is a bottom line. If you're number 2 in your team, top 2 in your team in targets, you are in the club. Tight end 12, tight end 11, tight end 10. Top 12 tight ends are always one or two on their team in targets. Check. Air yards. The Atlanta Falcons led the NFL in air yards last year under Arthur Smith. He now goes to Pittsburgh. There's not really anyone after Freiermuth. Maybe Miko Pruitt is the Jonnu Smith, but Pat Freiermuth is he could be in line for a monster season. 82 targets. Like if you push that up to 100 targets and 70 receptions, it could be a top 6, top 7 season. And you're getting him right now at tight end 15. You're getting him at pick 128. So if you're looking for a late round tight end option, a sleeper, Pat Freiermuth, not interested in anyone else. So to recap, Justin Fields, Jaylen Warren, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth. That's the only people I'm interested in this offense. But I mean, Roman Wilson and Pat Freiermuth are your values. And again, Justin Fields and Jaylen Warren are going off his values right now. So this is 5-Minute Fantasy Football. As always, good luck this season.